Yeah, so I'm Dave Winspear, Head of Prevention and Protection for the Fire Service in North Yorkshire.
And where are we today?
So we're at Park Road Flats in Harrogate.
We're kind of coming to the end of an incident. The fire crews are just tidying up. What's kind of gone on this morning?
So today we've come down to the venue in Harrogate to try and test our procedures for working in what's called high-rise residential buildings. This is a 12-storey residential block of flats in Harrogate. 48 flats in total, and we've come here today really just to test our procedures and how we can command and control an incident in a building like this where the fire's taken hold in a particular flat, and then how that can then be managed by our staff using resources we've got available, including some of our special appliances, in particular the new aerial ladder platform which has recently been brought into Harrogate station.
So if this was a real incident, obviously the first you'd know about it would be a 999 call. Can you talk us through what would kind of happen from that point onwards?
Yeah, so as with any of the call comes into our control centre. Our control operatives would ask the relevant questions of the person making the call, and then they would mobilise the initial resources to the property where the calls come from. So in this case, because it is a high-rise residential building, that will be 3 fire engines and the aerial ladder platform. And a flexi-duty officer would also be mobilised. So very, very quickly we would send a number of resources to the premises. On arrival, the first person that's in charge would then make contact with what's called a responsible person and ask relevant questions of them as to actually what's going on, where the fire is, and maybe some other questions that are of real interest to ourselves. And so it's all about fact-finding and getting information so we can then sort of form a operational and a tactical plan. So at that point, once we know that we've got a confirmed fire in a flat, and in this particular exercise today, we've rather fictitiously, we've assumed there was a fire in a flat on the 9th floor. We've then sort of tested our procedures about how well we could respond to that. So that's about making sure we've got all the right equipment, the right resources, a proper plan, people know what they're going to do, and the structure in place. That's what we've tested out today. And
then with a building like this then, is it correct to say the advice to the residents is to stay in their flats?
Absolutely. So this is what's called a purpose-built block of flats. It's had lots of investment in features within the building to make it safe, so that if there is a fire in a particular flat, in this case it was a flat on the 9th floor, that persons who are residing in other flats are actually separated from that space for at least an hour, allowing the fire service to attend and deal with the fire. So what's called a stay-put strategy for buildings like this is absolutely normal. It's designed for buildings like this so that people can stay within their own flat. That gives them 1 hour, and the flat where the fire is gives another hour of separation. So that's how we create the space between the two occupancies. Obviously, if there comes a point where fire services think they need to help people move from the building, and this is something we've tested today, then we might be able to bring them from an adjacent flat into partially a compromised area, into the corridor, for example, and downstairs, and we might move small numbers of people from one nearby flat, and we've used some things called smokers today to assist residents in doing that, again testing out some new equipment in our procedures as well.
And part of the scenario was that some of the people hadn't stayed in their flats and they'd fled to the roof.
Yeah.
And how did you manage that situation?
So again, this is all very much down to understanding the situation, getting all the information that's available, being very aware of the environment we're working with, being very observant. So once we knew that people had actually moved up onto the upper floor, we chose then to test out, in this particular circumstance, but use our resources to evacuate them from the roof using the aerial ladder platform, which is sufficiently high enough to reach that roof level. And then our staff have used our resources to escort them into what's called a cage and then bring them down to ground floor.
And in terms of the overall control, I know you set something up, is it called a bridge head, is it?
That's correct, yeah.
7th floor?
Yeah.
What's that about?
So when you're fighting fires in high-rise buildings, there are some very set procedures about what we do. So whilst we're commanding the incident from outside of the building, we need to put what's called a bridgehead or a forward command point into the building where we can operate from. So the bridgehead is that place, and it's normally set up 2 floors below what's called the fire floor. So I said the fire was on the 9th floor. As you said, we set up the bridge on the 7th floor, and that's where we then set up our point of attack to deal with the fire. So we take resources up to the 7th floor. That includes all of our hose and our branches, our BA sets, and firefighters go there. They're set up from that point, and then they deploy and move up the staircase beyond floor 8 to 9, and then onto the flat and tackle it from there.
And the exercise wasn't done in kind of normal time, was it? It was kind of done as a training exercise.
That's right.
Slower. How's it gone today then, looking at what's happened?
I think very well. I mean, we set out some real clear learning objectives for us as a service to look at today. Obviously, we're going to go away now and evaluate and debrief the exercise, and I'm sure there'll be lots of very significant learning points that will come out of that. But that's why we do this. You know, it's really important that, you know, as a service, we make sure that we are absolutely properly ready set for eventualities like this. And so we fully expect to see learning outcomes from this become apparent. So we will do a detailed assessment of today's gone. But my overall impression of what's gone on today is that we've responded to this incident appropriately. The way to attack was correct. The way we approached it procedurally, it was correct. And actually, I think the outcome in terms of what we provided the residents, you know, tackling the fire, moving people around the building, taking people who go onto the roof, and using some of our new equipment has gone very, very well.